Results are in for the recall election. Pretty much a landslide victory for Governor Gavin Newsom.
Absolutely. Here's a look at the numbers. As you can see, the numbers overwhelmingly in his favor. At this point, 64% supporting the governor, and we're going on from there because we're still counting the ballots, which is pretty incredible. Let's go now for more on this to Karma Dickerson. She has the very latest this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Coming to you from the Capitol in Sacramento as we are looking at the day post-election, and really it's appearing to not even having been close. This race called about 45 minutes after the polls closed. It was always going to be a contest of who could really turn out their base in a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans nearly 2-1. We recall that every single Californian did get a ballot in the mail, so it was a contest of who could get people to turn those ballots in. And Governor Newsom making that big push, talking about big picture issues, saying this wasn't just a matter of what we were dealing with statewide, locally. It was an issue of California values, the way he sees them, versus some of the conservative big picture values of some of the national races. Here's how the governor put it shortly after the polls closed last night.
No is not the only thing that was expressed tonight. I want to focus on what we said yes to as a state. We said yes to science. We said yes to vaccines. We said yes to ending this pandemic. We said yes to people's right to vote without fear of fake fraud or voter suppression.
This was one of 6 attempts to recall Governor Newsom, but the first to reach that threshold needed to trigger an election. This actually began in February 2020 before anyone was really focused very closely on the massive impact COVID would have right here at home. A conservative group set out to oust him over his policies relating to immigration, homelessness, and taxes. However, outrage about those COVID-19 policies came to be central in the recall. We know that our governor was the first to implement things like a stay-at-home order, vaccine mandates, mandate testing, and for vaccines for healthcare workers and teachers. However, while his policies outraged some, exit polling indicates that voters actually approved of Newsom's efforts to combat the pandemic. Had that recall actually been successful, conservative Larry Elder would have replaced Newsom as governor of California. He did previously express concerns over election integrity. However, last night he called on his supporters to be gracious in defeat.
The issue is school choice. As you know, my opponent, Governor Gavin Newsom, let's be gracious. Let's be gracious in defeat. And by the way, we may have lost the battle, but we are going to win the war.
So, Darren, Noel, at this point, it's unclear where things go from here, because while the governor definitely has at least appears to have an unquestioning mandate to stay in office, out and about talking with voters yesterday in Sacramento, we did hear the same issues, whether or not they were voting in favor of the recall or against the recall. People still expressed the same concerns about homelessness, about drought, about wildfires, about cost of living. So across the board, Californians have concerns, and so it's going to be up to Governor Gavin Newsom to decide how he addresses that, because as you'll recall, we do this all again in just over a year when Governor Newsom presumably runs again to try to retain his seat in the general election. Reporting from Sacramento, I'm Karma Dickerson.
Okay, thanks a lot, Karma.